What's up, everybody? Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. We hope you're well. How's it going for you, Mike?
Well, spring is in the air. Snow is melting. So I'm getting over my winter blues.
Nice. It's raining over here.
I fucking hate winter, man. I'm such a miserable bastard.
Well, you sent me an interesting article to take a look at, and I've got to say, you motherfucker.
Yes, that's what I want to hear.
This is one of the messiest things I've ever tried to research in the 8 years of doing the show. And I don't know, I'll tell you what I found. I had to rewrite my notes, which ended up being 16 pages of this shit 3 times because new stuff kept coming up that would contradict other stuff. So I'm just going to unfold this the way it unfolded for me.
Sounds promising. All right.
Okay, so when I went to go second source this story, all I found were a lot of copy and paste articles that seemed to contradict the original story, only to find out it's not the original story, but an altered version of the original story. It's kind of what it boiled down to, but we'll just start with your article, which takes place at a string of council houses. It takes place in England, so I guess that's a term for a string of houses owned by the city or somebody. But it's called the Wingates Grove in West Thoughton, Manchester. It starts off, as confusing as I said, with stating that this is a rehaunting. You see in this article, we get to talk to Laura, who's now 34, who lived in one of the houses at Wingates Grove in 1999. And like I said, this is a story of a rehaunting, and Laura and her family being the second victims to be haunted at one of these houses in this property. But this article starts with the story of the first family, maybe. And it states this and only this in this article. It started in 1993, which is pre-Laura's story. A young family, a husband, wife, and 2 kids lived at one of the homes. They started to have problems with their heater and their plumbing for no reason. They would call maintenance, or the council people, and they would call maintenance. And they would come and check everything and nothing would be wrong ever. It would just decide to stop working. And then they reported that an oil-like substance would pull up on the ceiling and run down the walls. And it said that when they reported this to the council, they took some and tested it, and the tests were inconclusive as they didn't have a large enough sample to test properly.
So why couldn't they get a large enough sample, I wonder?
Right.
If it was flowing down the walls, it seems like it would be readily available.
Right, exactly. So they decided to contact their church, who apparently witnessed so much stuff going on there that they found to be unnatural that they decided to perform an exorcism, which stopped everything. So now on to Laura's story, her haunting. And again, it states that Laura moved into a different house in Wingates Grove in 1999 at 12 years old with her mother, father, and brother. She said the house instantly gave her bad vibes. She begged her mom not to move in there. Her mom told her they didn't have much of a choice in the matter, but she didn't like it at all. Shortly after moving in, they too had problems with their furnace and plumbing. They said that the furnace would constantly go out. And again, the council was notified, maintenance was dispatched, only to find everything in perfect working order. Laura claims that the first thing that happened that proved something unnatural was going on was when her and her brother decided to play a prank on a friend that was visiting. Now, this is kind of weird. I don't understand this. So, I mean, I'm not doubting the validity of all this stuff. It just got confusing as far as how this actually played out. She said that her and her brother were upstairs and their friend was downstairs watching TV. They decided to go downstairs and play a prank on him, is how they described it. I think it was they just wanted to scare him because they walked downstairs quietly and did their prank, and they said they instantly ran upstairs, and she went up the stairs first, and behind her was her brother, and he let out a loud scream as soon as they got to the stairs. And he had cut his foot on what was a picture frame that was, when they were coming down the stairs, hanging on the wall. Now, what made it weird for her and proved that something paranormal was happening is that the picture frame wasn't a big one, like an 8x12 or anything like that. It was small, and it was on one of the steps, in the middle of the steps, standing up as if somebody was holding it that way.
So, like someone was holding it so the kid would cut his foot on it?
Yeah, so that it was standing straight up as he came down on the step, and he stepped on it, and they said as they looked, it was still standing up like that.
Huh.
And again, moments ago, it was on the wall.
Right.
After this, again, pools of a, quote, baby oil-like substance would appear on the ceiling and round on the walls, so bad that Laura recalls that she wasn't able to hang posters in her room as a kid living there. There was always an oily substance on the walls.
That's so weird.
Isn't it?
So they went from this black oil-like fluid to a baby oil?
No, they said that in the beginning they just said an oily like substance. So you're right, maybe it was a black consistency, but they just said oil. But
I must have put the black in because he said oily, so I was just picturing black. But if it was like baby oil, that's a whole different thing. It's kind of gross though. Like I feel like that's even grosser. Like if it was black oil, like you could be like, oh, it's coagulated blood, and while that's like gross and scary and stuff, like. What is this? What is this other stuff? What's going on there?
Yeah, but you're right. It didn't say baby oil like in the start of this, retelling the first haunting. It's Laura who gave that description, so you could be right. But one day, Laura says that her family woke up and went outside to find, quote, dozens of dead cows surrounding their house.
What? Cows?
Yes. Now,
that would be scary as hell.
Yeah, they said that they're
just having your house surrounded by dead cows.
Yeah.
Fuck you. No, thank you.
The front, the back, and both sides of the house. That made me think too. I mean, there's a lot of farmland in this area. That's a very expensive loss for someone.
So they weren't their cows. They were just random dead cows.
Yes.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Wow. That's even weirder. Like what made this group of cows come to their house to die? Was there any reason to their death?
That's all.
Like that they could tell?
That's all they said. They're literally interviewing her, and that's all they wrote, which is a big one of the reasons why trying to second source this was such a mess. There's not, I mean, like I told you, the first story of the first family is literally a paragraph. And that's all she says. She woke up. She said it was super traumatizing. She suffers from PTSD from it to this day. Because she was just 12 years old, walking outside to see a dead cow would be kind of weird. But to find, 20 of them, she said it messed her up a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. She also believes that something or whatever was haunting the house imitated or impersonated her brother. She said that she was sitting upstairs alone in her bedroom watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And she was waiting for her brother to get home. And she noticed that he was about 10 minutes late when she heard the front door open, him set his keys on the hook on the wall, and walk into the kitchen. She said she sat there for about another 10 minutes waiting for him to come up to say something to her, and he never did. So she got up to go downstairs to see what that noise was, and as she got to the top of the stairs, her brother walked in through the front door. And she asked him, "Did you come in and leave?" And he said, "No, I just got here." But she noted that as being something that scared her. She said that it was deliberately mimicking the sounds her brother would make.
That's something that you hear in a lot of haunting cases where they'll hear like someone come in and they'll hear a distinct sound that person makes. Like I remember one distinctly where it was the sound of car keys hitting a table when they came in, and there was nobody there. And then like a half hour later, that exact same thing happened, and this time they were actually home.
Right. We all know how distinctive car keys can sound. When I was a kid, I can tell when my dad's keys hit the mailbox and I knew to fucking kick out the chicks and put away the crack.
Fuck out of here, crack.
But Laura goes on to state that her nephew began to talk to something that he would call Big Guy. They would ask him who he was talking to, and he would point to the corner of a room and say him, the big guy. They never saw the big guy or anything like that, but he did that for quite some time, she says. But she and her family eventually moved out when she was 16 years old, and she believed that whatever haunted the first family had come back to haunt her family. And funny enough, the article mentions a new tenant who bought the home in 2006. And she says she hasn't experienced anything strange at all except a window that she finds opened unexplainably. She didn't open it. She knows she closed her windows. She'll come home from work and one of her windows is open. But she was a bit weird. She was like, I'm stoked on it if it was a ghost, you know. She was stoked that at the possibility of a ghost being there. She said for her it was actually a selling point.
Yeah, my kind of person. I'm the same way.
Right.
Although, you know, the lady would say otherwise. She would very much frown on me buying a house that was haunted. Yeah. I'd be so pumped to be like, yes, I will buy this haunted house. And she'd be like, the fuck you will.
You can, but just you'll live in it by yourself.
Yeah, you'll live in it by yourself, and I will never come see you. So, yeah. So, no haunted houses in my future.
Well, one of the taglines in this article was a house so haunted that tenants are required to sign a waiver to move in. And this new tenant named Karen did confirm that. She said she was asked to sign a waiver that informed her of the place being haunted and required the new tenant to not have children.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I found that weird.
But no reason behind it?
No. Probably, I mean, I don't know that the waiver mentioned, like, due to the ghost focusing on children. I don't know. But she said, I don't have kids. I don't want to have kids, so it's no problem to me. I love the house. It's no big deal. So that as a story as a whole, what do you think about that half?
Sounds like the first half of a decent horror movie.
Right. So, like I said, I went to second source this story, and all I came across was copy and paste shit, like I said. And I found one thing that was different, and it comes from an article all the way back from 1998 about what appears to be the first family haunted at Wingates. Now, it says the story takes place 5 years ago, which would make it 1993, which would make it the same year Laura's story happened.
Ooh, interesting.
Yes, but it says Mother Elizabeth Hulton, then 27, and her husband and 3 children moved in to one of the houses at Wingate Grove. She said again that the plumbing and heating started to freak out. And when they would report it to the council, they'd send out maintenance workers, and they found nothing to be wrong. Everything was in working order. Again, the master bedroom and walls started to drip a, quote, baby oil-like liquid. And again, she says that the council took a sample and tested it and was again inconclusive. Her husband, John, started to see a, quote, ghostly figure at the foot of the stairs. She then mentions her son started to speak to something that he called Little Man. Little Man would wake him up at night to tell him stories and to play games with him. And he would point to the ceiling in the corner of a room and talk to it and call him Little Man.
So there was a big man and a little man.
So far.
Okay. Will there be a medium man or a regular man?
No.
Something like, no. Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure we're not getting into Three Bears territory. That's all.
So when the liquid stuff would happen, they would call more maintenance people, and nobody could figure out. There's no source for this liquid to be there at all. And apparently maintenance workers experienced some of this paranormal activity when they were there, because maintenance workers refused to come back to the house to do any type of work, ghost related or not. She goes on to say that the council recommend that she contact a medium and have them perform an exorcism on the house. So after reading your article and thinking that this was clearly a story on the second family to be haunted there, this one from 1998 had so many discrepancies. I clearly figured that this was a story about the first family that was haunted at Wingate Groves. But then this fucking article goes on to state, this isn't the first family to be haunted at Wingate Groves.
Ooh.
So it does a short little thing. It says in 1993, a couple with 3 kids moved into the home, one of the homes, and mentions, again, an oily liquid coming from the walls and pulling up on the ceiling. There's actually pictures of one of these houses in this article, and you can see all these stains. I mean, they're oil stains. It's fucking everywhere. Stated that they called in a medium by the name of Reverend Simon Fulton Brown, who said prayers in the house. And after that, everything stopped, and the house was now owned by a single mother of 2 named Susan Barton.
So hold on, before we get into Susan's story, is it possible that this prayers in the house was decades later being reported as an exorcism by mistake, or just to make it more of an interesting story, but originally it was just this dude said prayers?
Maybe because they talked to one of the spokesperson for the council, and they said they recommended a psychic, not a medium, not a preacher. They didn't go to their church like the other story stated. They went to their council, who recommended contacting someone. So, but get this. When they speak to this council person that recommends to contact the medium, he says, last time we called in a medium, we could do the same thing again. So apparently this isn't the first family to be haunted at Wingates Grove.
Interesting. So it's 2 separate reports about 2 separate events that just kind of go or come through later or different times, I guess.
I guess so. I mean, like, I try to do like it said Laura's 34 now, so like it matched up that she would have been 12 when that was going on. But then the same fucking article mentions that, you know, there was somebody else, a whole nother family living there, or maybe maybe they were in a different house at the same time. Maybe Laura's a fucking family member. Laura said her nephew would say, big man. Maybe fucking Laura doesn't remember everything straight from when she was 12. Maybe she's a family member of the Holtons. Maybe she was a family member of the Holtons. I don't know. But there's so many variations of the same thing. And then to go back and find what I think is the original family, and then have that article mention that this isn't the original family, and then having that council person say that the last time they had something like this happen, they called in a medium. So that kind of confirms that's not the first family that this happened to where it got to this point. But that's fucking pretty much where it trailed off. That's the only other fucking information I can find on that case at all. So, I mean, I don't know if Laura's fucking wrong, but just that Laura's house is now owned by that Karen Walton lady. And, she had to sign that waiver to move in, but it was just a mess to go around everywhere and find all this stuff and contradictory stories. It sounded like they're so similar, but do you think that these are all actually, it's a row of houses. Do you think that it actually could be like what every fucking house was haunted in this grove?
If it's a case like that, it's very unlikely that it's the houses. I would say at that point, you're talking about the land itself. Something's going on with the land. Maybe it's cursed. Maybe there's just a lot of weird energy there. Or maybe it's one of those places where the veil is thin and things are able to come through.
Right. Now, this is a quote from Elizabeth Holton that's from the 1998 piece. She says, the psychic said that poltergeists don't actually go away. They lie dormant for a few years and then try to reattach themselves to something. So she's stating that it's a psychic that was contacted. But she goes on to say, it always felt like somebody was there when there wasn't. I would go to sleep and then wake up and sit bolt upright expecting someone to be there. And she said that She eventually separated from her husband and now lives in Liverpool. But yeah, it's just so many weird things. It was just a fucking mess to research. I mean, like to find an article from 1998, I thought that was pretty cool to find something that old on the same story.
Yeah, and especially potentially from a different perspective,
right?
Or a different a separate case.
Right. It left me wanting to know if I mean, we have Laura and her family, we have Elizabeth and her family, and in both stories they mention a first family, which neither turned out to be Elizabeth's family. So I really wish they said they were 2 doors away from each other, these 2 stories. So I wonder if it was the 2 other cases, the one that Laura's talking about, and the other one that the article that Elizabeth Holton's in, is that 2 other houses that were haunted? That would be pretty fucking gnarly. An entire haunted grove of houses?
Yeah, it's something in the ground. There's evil beneath that grove.
And it hates fucking cows.
It hates cows and children.
Yep. So as far as poltergeist stuff goes, that's some... You all right? Whoa.
Fuck.
Dude, are you all right?
Hold on. Oh, fuck, it's ads.
All right, there you go, dude. Just let that cream dry.
It already feels better. Thank you.
No problem.
So what's this about poltergeist now?
So when I was trying to second source this one, I came across a case that would pop up before this one would. I had to dig to find anything on the article you sent me. And this one seemed really fucking creepy and had a cool name. It's called The Black Monk of Pontefract. In the mid-60s, Jean and Joe Pritchard, along with their 2 children, lived at 30 East Drive in Pontefract, Yorkshire. But 1966 would be the year that 30 East Drive would become the site of one of the sites of England's worst and most documented hauntings. It starts off in a classic way. Lights flickering on and off, turning on and off by their own accord. Cold spots would be felt around the house. And then it got fucking really creepy. They started reporting that they would hear super loud breathing sounds, as if somebody was breathing in their ear. Everybody that lived there.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That would be so fucking creepy. Like you're just sitting there trying to relax and just... Fuck off.
Yeah.
Stop breathing in my ear, you son of a bitch.
They said it would be like at their ear or sometimes standing in front of them. After they started hearing all the gnarly breathing sounds, they said that it was soon followed by the arrival of what they described as a black figure. The black figure would show up so much that they actually named it Fred.
Was it like a shadow person or was it like something more substantial?
It's from the 60s. They call it a black figure, but I'm guessing it's a shadow person, right?
Yeah, I mean if it's all black, unless it's like some creepy dude in a black robe that's just kind of chilling there.
Yeah. Well, over time, the activity would get worse and worse and increase, causing many situations that forced the family to speak up and seek help, sometimes in an emergency fashion. Multiple neighbors, as well as police officers and military police officers, witnessed the activity at this house. All of them couldn't offer any type of explanation or help. But in August of 66, the family decided to take a break from being fucking haunted and go on vacation. But for some reason...
Like, you know what? Fuck this haunting. Let's go to Disney World.
Right? That's gotta be rough. I mean, you hear about cases like this all the time where shit's happening. I mean, even the first cases we talked about, oil dripping from the walls, that's pretty heavy shit. That's scary. But then you hear about these people not moving right away. And you always, when you're younger, I always ask myself, why don't you just fucking move out? And, you know, now that I'm a fucking adult, sometimes that's not an option. And that's the shit I feel bad for. That sucks. I've experienced a lot of weird shit, and thankfully that it was when I was younger. I just don't know how I'd feel about that shit happening to me with my own children. I don't want to have anything to do with that type of shit.
How do you think that they would feel about it? Like, would they be freaked out by it? Because I know that they've been, around it. So
right. I think that it's cool to talk about. I think it's something interesting. Like we find it, but there's times where like one of them will hear a sound that it's like a loud thump that they at the time they were like, what the fuck was that? And they'll look at me and they'll be like, what's that? It'll be like just the two of them sitting with me on the couch or something, and we'll hear something like that come from the kitchen, and the look on their face isn't like, oh shit, what was that? It's fear. So I mean, for kids, I think it's a cool thought, but I think if you're dealing with fucking oil running down your walls and people breathing in your ear, I would hate to be trapped in that situation, man.
Yeah, just to me, like disembodied human sounds are the scariest fucking thing ever. Like, like a disembodied scream or disembodied footsteps, but breathing and there's something's not there. That, oh my God. That's so scary.
Yeah, that's creepy shit. It reminds me about that shadow person I saw that breathed in my ear, and that was no fun at all.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm good there.
So in August of '66, the family went on vacation, but for some reason their son Philip wanted to stay home, so they arranged for his grandmother to stay with him at the house. That evening, early in the evening. The grandmother noted feeling lots of cold spots throughout the house, although she said it was August, summertime, but it was overly hot for the season. She said it was very hot, and even though it was that hot, she would find freezing spots in the house. And she said that they were sitting in a living room watching television when all of a sudden a white powder fell to the ground out of nowhere, not from the ceiling, just materialized in the middle of the room and fell to the ground. I got to say, with these British hauntings, I mean, this is a lot of weird physical evidence, right? We got oily walls and
yeah, and the thing materializing out of thin air. That's something that seems to be a reoccurring thing in poltergeist activity.
Right? And not even just poltergeist activity, heavy poltergeist activity.
Yeah. Like, remember that case we covered where it was raining stones inside the house?
Yeah, and lit matches.
Yeah. That's dangerous.
Don't be a dick ghost.
I know.
Bang on some wood. Don't burn my house down.
Yeah. You can't haunt something that's not here, you son of a bitch.
If I'm out of a home, so are you,
Stupid
you prick.
Ghost.
Oh, so let's see here. So this was enough for Grandma to grab Phil and run down the street to her other daughter's, Marie's house. And after calming down, all three returned to the home. As they all stood there looking at the unknown powder on the floor, all of a sudden pools of water began to form around their feet and run down the walls. They decided not to panic, and since it wasn't too late, they called the city water company, who came out and inspected everything and found no source for any type of leak whatsoever. They did confirm that it was just water, no oily substance this time.
But it's actual, like, real water?
Mm-hmm. Just pulled up around just where their feet were, where they were standing. And I can kind of understand that. Mike, you have a majestic home. I don't know how to say, I don't want to say it insultingly, but let's say experienced home, a home with a lot of history. If something weird started going on there, I mean, even if there was shit like powder falling from nowhere and your like water started coming out of your floor, wouldn't you be like, fuck this, I need to find out where this water's coming from?
Yeah. I did have a weird thing happen when we first moved in where there was something that kind of materialized out of nowhere.
Really?
Yeah, we had been here a couple months, and I've got my office is in the basement, and we were cleaning the basement we had already swept the floor and dusted down here and done all that. And out of nowhere, like just randomly in the middle of the floor, this piece of broken glass is just sitting there. And we picked it up, and I don't know why, but for some reason my girlfriend thought that she wasn't going to throw this piece of broken glass away, and she just set it aside. A few days later, on the floor, we find a small glass bird that has a broken wing, and that piece of glass that we had found a few days ago was the broken wing of this bird.
What? Where did you find the little bird?
In our basement.
Holy
just
shit.
Showed up. Yeah. It's fucking weird, man. Like, after we had already cleaned down here, it was just weird. So we put the bird back together, and now we've got it down here.
Really?
Yeah. It's just this little tiny, very tiny bird, like the size of the first knuckle of your thumb.
Is it like old porcelain or like some clear
No, it's
glass?
like clear, just tiny, cheap. It looks like cheap glass, like really thin. I shouldn't say cheap. It looks like it's like delicate glass.
There you go. It's listening. It's right there, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. But we kept it because it just was kind of weird. It was after, we had already cleaned everything, and then right in the middle of the room, there it is.
Wow.
It's weird. Yeah. But anyway, I didn't mean to derail your story.
No worries.
But yeah, I live in an old house. My house is over 100 years old. And, yeah, I mean, that I haven't seen or heard anything weird. There was that. And then I think I talked about the weird incident with the marker on the show that we had experienced. But other than that, nothing strange has happened.
Yeah, I've kind of been waiting for something to happen. Over 100 years old. And I didn't mean trashy you guys in the beginning by saying experienced house or a seasoned house. I didn't want to say over 100 years old. I didn't want it to be rude, so.
You're hurting the house's feelings by giving its age.
Right? Your house can hear my voice in some way. I'm there in some way. I could piss something off.
Yeah, it's like, fuck you, Mateo. Over a century old, I'll whoop your ass. Show some respect.
Majestic's the right word, bitch.
Yeah.
So by 7 p.m., Aunt Marie had gone back home, and Grandma was in the living room watching some TV when she heard little Phil scream from the kitchen. As she entered the kitchen, she saw tea packets and sugar flying all over the place. And then the tea kettle itself flew into the air and started spraying tea everywhere.
That's like straight out of the Poltergeist movie, like the bedroom scene, except in the kitchen.
Right. And she even said, she even made the point that it was not sporadic movement. It was as if a hand had picked it up and was flinging it around the room. All the while, her and Phil both said that they can see the on and off switch for this tea kettle going on and off and on and off and on and off. Now, out of pure frustration and fear, Grandma decides to scream at the top of her lungs, "Stop it," where everything suddenly fell to the ground, and it was followed by a huge bang that came from the hallway. And when they went to go turn their heads and look at the hallway, they said the hallway light turned on by itself. Now, after that, they were startled by a cupboard that was filled with pots and dishes, they said. It started to shake violently. And then it stopped, only for the stuff inside of this cupboard to shake violently. Grandma grabs Phil, runs back to Marie's house, who comes back with Grandma and Phil and decides to spend the night with them until Phil's dresser drawers started opening and closing by themselves. And that was that.
Man, this thing sounds like a fucking pain in the ass.
Right? Just like a real, like the Poltergeist movie. You weren't kidding. Like a Hollywood, like put all the sugar you want on it, make it as scary as you want, fucking haunting. But that was that for 2 whole years. And then
So after that, it was just like, nah, I'm good.
Yep.
I'm just going to chill. I banged around your drawers, and now I'm just going to chill.
Yep, for 2 whole years. And again, to staying there after all this shit is, this poor family apparently can't leave this place. But then the activity came back tenfold, especially when guests were over. When they had people over, more of those huge bangs, which we're all familiar with. We've covered tons of ghost stories where that happens. Actually, Mike, the story you mentioned earlier about the rocks and matches falling from the ceiling is the same story to where they would get the bangs on their house so hard the plaster would fall off the ceiling and the walls. But along with those bangs, guests would witness things flying around on their own accord. And the activity was so rampant that they had no other choice but to invite a friend over who was into, I guess, the occult. They just said it was a friend, but they were offering to perform an exorcism. And they said that when they did this, and they were praying and splashing holy water about the house, upside down crosses would appear on the walls of whatever room they're in while he would do this. It then started to focus its attention on the daughter, and this black figure, Fred, came back and would regularly grab her and drag her out of bed.
Oh man. So not only was it manifesting, but it was also able to physically interact with her.
Yes, it would.
Like she actually saw the figure pulling her out of bed. It wasn't that she was pulled out of bed and assumed it.
Right. She saw the black figure do this to her. It would constantly grab her arms so hard that it would leave bruises of straight up handprints on her. Now, everything came to a head when one day she was in bed and she was dragged up a flight of stairs by her throat by the black figure, Fred.
Oh my God.
Yeah, just grabbed it by the throat and marched up.
Not only does it wake you up in the middle of the night, it then proceeds to choke you while you're awake. This Fred is a real fucking asshole.
Yeah. Total dick. But even after that, they couldn't move out. They were stuck there. But after that, they said everything stopped forever. Now, they didn't have any idea what could have done this, what was causing this. But some of the older locals knew exactly who was responsible for doing those things. It was the Black Monk of Pontefract.
So maybe... All right, I'm sorry. Before I start speculating, go on.
The Black Monk was someone who lived in the 16th century and who was somebody who had been found guilty of sexually assaulting and murdering a young girl and was sentenced to death and was hung for doing this. And they said that the gallows where he was hung is exactly at 30 East Drive where this house was. Now, this being documented so well, it got really popular with all the ghost hunting shows from the early 2000s. I'm sure you unfortunately remember those.
Of course I do.
You can go on YouTube and find tons of these shows investigating this place, as well as the first story, Laura's story at the Wingates Grove. There's tons of fucking shows that investigate that place. Even just regular YouTube channels go there and investigate that place. But this house where the Black Monk was is investigated by tons of TV shows. And there's even a TV show to where there was somebody pulled up the stairs and they got that on film. But people being who they are today quickly pointed out the fucking rope tied to the dude's back. And they had to admit that it was bullshit.
Ah.
Yeah.
Boo. Boo. Fuck those guys.
Yeah. They just want YouTube clicks, bro.
Yeah. Sons of bitches muddying the waters. I hate that shit. It pisses me off.
But yeah, that was it for them. It never bothered them again. I don't know when they moved out or how long they lived there. But this haunting was so famous, it was actually turned into a movie called...
Really?
Yeah, When the Lights Went Out.
When did that come out? I've never heard of it.
2012.
Holy shit.
Right?
Maybe we should track it down and talk about it on Patreon.
Ooh, that's a good idea. I kind of wanted to watch it after this. They said they took some liberties with it.
Well, of course. You got to take liberties.
Yeah, they said it's set in 1974 instead of the early 60s. And they changed their names, of course. They got pictures of this house and the council houses at West Wingate Grove, and I got to say they all look the same. Even fucking trying to disprove the articles from the first story, they all had pictures of the house and they all looked exactly the same. A red brick house with white trim. But yeah, I definitely want to check out this movie.
Yeah, so if you guys want to hear us talk about this movie or cover it and compare it to the actual story, I recommend going to Patreon. Patreon.com/thewhatcast. $5 a month, ad free, extra content, yada yada yada, chances for stuff. Go check it out. Good stuff. And we appreciate the support.
Another thing that I found in that article about this black monk, that they had a vicar visit the house, and he said that nothing happened for like 2 hours, and they were pissed because the place was so active. And the guy said as soon as he looked at his watch and stood up to leave, a candlestick jumped off the fireplace, and he got to witness that. So I found it interesting. It's super documented. I went and looked for both of these cases in a couple of my books, and I didn't find them. And I expected to, them being from like the 60s and early 90s. But I don't know. I miss old haunting stories like this, man. I actually do want to check out that movie now.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that because I want to watch it as well. And I always find that the ones that are based on a true story are never as scary as the true stories. It seems like the shit that they add to the movies to make it scary isn't really even, it just dumbs down the story.
Right. It softens the blow for the whole story, right?
Yeah. Like the Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. I was so fucking stoked for that movie. And then I saw it and I'm like, the actual story was so much fucking scarier. Why are you doing this Hollywood bullshit?
You gotta make those ducats, bro.
Yeah, gotta get them ducats.
I'm scared of it being made in 2012. Like, that's right in the midst of like a billion shitty straight to fucking DVD horror movies came out.
Yeah. I love that shit though. I'll watch it anyway and I'll enjoy the hell out of it.
I don't know. I guess I just cut like all the bad ones. Like the ones that were dumb. When I started seeing like the Sharknado stuff, I was like, that's good for a laugh for one movie. And then there's like part 9, and then there's like Octo Shark versus fucking Dick Bleach. I don't know. Fucking give me a break. But I guess that's the monster movie monsters genre.
Yeah. They've got 2-headed shark attack and 3-headed shark attack. And just like any fucking weirdo shark thing that you can think. Like there's a movie that I watched with my son called Sand Sharks, which is literally sharks that live in sand.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. And they the opening scene of the movie is sharks killing these guys on dirt bikes riding on sand dunes. It's like fucking Tremors, but it's sharks.
Please tell me somebody jumped like a mound of sand right into a mouth of a sand shark.
I think that it intercepted, like he was flying in the air and it jumps up right below him. Like, yeah.
Yes. See, that's good for a laugh for one film. Don't try to make a fucking franchise out of sand sharks. I'm not buying a lunchbox, assholes.
I would buy a sand shark lunchbox.
No.
And t-shirt and fucking shoes.
Shoes. It's little fucking tan-colored sharks. Slippers. See, you can make your own sand sharks shoes.
Yeah. I'll just catch a sand shark myself and I'll skin it and make shoes out of it.
Right.
Yeah, fuck you, sand sharks. In your face.
Ooh, before we go, guys, special announcement. Congratulations are due.
I like announcements and congratulations.
You're in store because one of our favorite people on planet Earth, Till, and his lovely bride Paula just tied the knot. Congratulations, you twos.
Yeah, that's pretty fantastic. So, way to go, guys. And I hope that you had a really good wedding and that you were both able to get intoxicated, but not too intoxicated that you were falling down puking all over each other, because that's a shitty way to end your wedding night. You know, you should be having a good time. So hopefully you didn't get fall down drunk, but you got kind of drunk, and hopefully the food was awesome and there was no fighting among the in-laws. And if there was, then I hope nobody lost an eye. It's the least I can wish on you guys. I hope nobody lost an eye at your wedding. If they did, I apologize in advance for my off-color well wishes.
You're strangely accurate.
Yeah. I am not a psychic. I have not heard anything about this, but tell Gramps that I am sorry about his eye.
Congratulations, you two. Have a good honeymoon. Watch out for barn owls. Gorge your loins.
Or don't, whatever floats your boat.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.